Every single day, you see these amazing buildings just shoot up out of the ground. But let's be real, the process of creating them is packed with danger. On a construction site, safety isn't just about being careful. It's a science. It's an entire engineering discipline. Because safety doesn't just happen by accident. It has to be designed right from a blueprint.
So that really begs the question, right? With all the massive machinery, the crazy heights, the hazardous materials, how do we actually pull this off? How do we build our world without it costing people their lives? The stakes really couldn't be any higher.
Well, the answer isn't just about a hard hat and a bright yellow vest. Nope. It all starts way before anyone even thinks about digging a hole. It starts with a super detailed document, just like this one. This is a baseline risk assessment, and it's the safety plan for building a brand new technical school.
Okay, so let's get into this. Why does a document like this even exist in the first place? Well, it's not just a friendly suggestion or some kind of industry best practice. It's a core requirement. It's a legal thing, a procedural mandate that has to be nailed down before any work can even dream of starting. See, in South Africa, for example, under their Occupational Health and Safety Act, you can't just rock up to a site with a crew and start throwing up walls. The law says you have to have a thorough safety plan in place first. It's totally non-negotiable.
And here's the proof. This is literally the official checklist for getting a construction permit. You've got your health and safety plan, a letter of good standing, and look right there, highlighted for us, the baseline risk assessment. It's required by law. It's a critical, absolutely essential piece of the whole puzzle.
And the law is crystal clear about whose job this is. This quote from the regulations puts the responsibility squarely on the principal contractor. They're the ones who have to create a plan that's specific to that exact site, well-documented and, this is the really important part, reviewed and updated as the project moves along.
So, how in the world do they do it? How do you take something as messy and unpredictable as danger and turn it into a plan you can actually manage? Well, you turn it into data. This section is all about the method they use to systematically calculate risk.
The engine that drives this entire process has a name, HIRA. It stands for Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment. And it's basically a formal, structured way to hunt down potential dangers, figure out just how serious they are, and then design specific controls to get them under control.
At its heart, HIRA boils down to a surprisingly simple little formula. You take the consequence, meaning how bad would it be if this thing actually happened, and you multiply it by the probability. How likely is it to happen? And that gives you a number, a risk ranking.
And this is where it all comes together visually. This is a risk matrix. Down the side, you've got the consequence, from a 1, medical only, all the way up to a 5, fatality. Then across the top, you have the probability, from 1, very unlikely, up to 5, common. So let's say a potential fatality is a common occurrence on this kind of job. That's a 5 times 5. You get a risk score of 25. That's max risk, red alert.
So this whole process follows 5 core steps, and it's really a continuous loop. First, you find the hazards. Second, you analyze them using that risk matrix. Third, you figure out the best controls to manage the risk. Fourth, you actually put those controls in place. And fifth, and this is key, you review and update because a job site is never static. It's always changing.
Okay, so enough with the theory. Let's see how this framework actually gets applied in the real world. We're going to look at the risk assessment for that technical school and see how this system is designed to protect people on a live project.
First up, we're talking about one of the heavy hitters, one of the most dangerous tasks they identified in the whole document, asbestos work. This stuff is a known killer, so the process for handling it has to be absolutely perfect.
And bam, look at that number, 25. The risk assessment gives us a score of 25, the highest possible risk. Why? Because the consequence is a 5, a fatality from asbestosis, and the probability is also a 5, because asbestos fiber release is a common thing during this kind of work. The system immediately flags this as a top-tier priority that needs the strongest controls.
So what do you do with the risk that high? Well, here's how the system responds. The hazard is the fiber release. The risk is a deadly occupational illness. And the control measure isn't some vague be careful note. It's specific and it's actionable. You have to clearly mark off the entire area and post mandatory asbestos warning signs. Everybody has to know where the danger zone is. Okay, let's take another one, a classic construction danger, working on scaffolding. We all know that falls from heights are a huge cause of injury and death in this industry. For working on scaffolding, this one clocks in at a 20.
That's a consequence of 5. A fall from a scaffold can easily be fatal, multiplied by a probability of 4 because it has happened before. It's still deep in the high-risk category, and that demands some serious controls.
And here is that control, spelled out, clear as day, right in the plan. It's not just be safe up there. It is an explicit, mandatory instruction. Workers must wear safety harnesses, and those harnesses must be hooked to a secure anchor point. This is literally how a piece of paper can directly save someone's life.
But here's the thing. A plan, no matter how amazing and detailed it is still just paper. Real safety isn't a document you just file away. It has to be a living, breathing system, a culture that adapts every single day on that job site.
And this is why it's so important to understand the difference between two types of assessment. That baseline assessment we've been looking at, that's the initial snapshot. It sets the foundation. But the continuous risk assessment, that's what happens every single day. It's the ongoing process where supervisors and workers are spotting new risks as they pop up and then adapting the plan right there on the fly.
So for this whole system to actually work, there are some huge mistakes you absolutely have to avoid. Safety totally fails when this whole process just becomes a tick box exercise to keep the auditors happy. It fails when the actual people doing the work, the frontline folks, aren't involved. It fails when nobody bothers to update it after a change. And it really fails when people think a hard hat is a magic shield and forget that it's the absolute last line of defense. Which leaves us with one last thought. And it's a question you can ask yourself. Whether it's a construction site, a factory, a lab, or even just an office, think about the safety plan in your world. Is it just a document that's collecting dust in a folder somewhere? Or is it a living culture that everyone, from the top all the way down, is an active part of every single day? Because that, right there, is the difference between safety on paper and safety in real life.